what I want to talk about first is because I said this on my show before, and I even failed myself, and I'm failing our president because, there's a lot of criticism that Democrats do not get the word out about what's actually happening in this country, under the presidency of Joe Biden.
Right.
Today is the 1-year anniversary of the Inflation Reduction Act.
Right.
And, it sounds so as Democrats, we can all go around and say Inflation Reduction Act, inflation is down. Look what Joe Biden, and people will look at us and just go, well, you're Democrats. You're just going to say whatever. And you're just going to take, well, we're not the only ones saying it. I mean, Morgan Stanley, who I promise you, most of the people who are at the top of Morgan Stanley are probably not big Democrats. That's just a guess.
Right.
They have given credit to Bidenomics, specifically the word Bidenomics, as to why our economy has gotten better and why inflation has gone down. Bank of America is giving credit to this administration for what has happened over the last year. A year ago, Lana knows this, we were at over 9%, a little over a year ago in inflation. We are down almost at the core number that all economic experts say we should be at.
I mean, it's incredible.
It really is.
It really is incredible.
And, he's doing it not just so normally when there's high inflation and you bring down inflation, there's almost always a recession, and a recession includes a lot of job losses. There's prices go higher. There's a lot of not prices go higher. That's obviously bringing down the inflation, but job losses is a big thing. He was able to not only maintain the jobs, he was able to add a ton of them.
Right.
And there are some people who are going to ignore it no matter what. It doesn't matter. They are just going to ignore the basic in-your-face numbers that show everything that this president so far has done has been the right thing.
But is it really in your face? Like, I'm not.
That's a good question.
Because I really think even like, so, when I commute in the mornings and it's always politics that I talk about, and some of them aren't politically active, and they'll complain about the prices of things and stuff like that. I don't know if it's in your face if you're not paying attention. How do you get that info?
Well, let me ask you this. Do they know about the Trump indictments? Yes, of course, because this stuff is boring for Americans. And the problem is that even back in the old days when things were kind of boring, this probably would be a bigger news story. But when you have something that's boring, that it's not salacious and it's not, a Jerry Springer-like news cycle in the political arena, you're not going to pay attention to it as much. Now, you're right, too. Do the Democrats do a great job of getting this message out? I mean, it's hard for me to say, honestly, because I follow this all the time.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, I don't, people blame it on the Democrats, and I don't think it's a Democratic problem. It's almost a media problem. The media is not getting it out enough.
And I'm glad you say that, because a lot of people don't really recognize that. They recognize more it's easy to blame whatever's in charge or whoever's in charge. So it's easy to make that distinction and say, you know what, it's Joe Biden, he's the president, my eggs cost $1 more than they used to, so he's got to go. And I'm going to bring back the guy who, well, we have a ton of things to talk about with him, but yeah, I mean, it's a concern. I do think, though, as time goes on, hopefully it gets out more. You're right. I mean, even in a blue state that you said you're up in, people are not really talking about it.
And they'll still complain about like the price of things because people generally are just unhappy, right? And they don't even look at like the facts. They don't look at, like, I told you, I think I told you last week, I was in the store and I'm like, oh my God, the snacks are on sale. They haven't been on sale in so long. Oh my God, the cereal, there are deals again. That there weren't at one point, I didn't see the orange tags on the food. Like now I see the orange stickies because things are on sale now.
Yeah. And the other thing too that drives me, I mean, it's easy, again, like I said, to blame the Democrats, easy to blame Joe Biden. I don't understand as Americans, because something is pretty clear, and it's not fully responsible, but part of it is these corporations that sell the foods, the eggs, the gas, all this stuff, during that inflationary time, they were jacking up prices when they did not necessarily need to do it. I mean, they were making they were making more money in 2022, 2021, and 2020 during the pandemic than they'd ever made ever.
During our lockdown.
Correct. And, the fact that they made that much money during lockdown, during time when inflation was high, it's that price gouging. It's no different here in Florida. We see it.
It's a no-brainer, right?
We see it all the time here in Florida. When a hurricane comes through, that gas prices are going to go through the roof. And it's just that price gouging that they took advantage of, and not enough Americans are not even just not know about it. They're not angry about it. That's what they should be angry about. Whether you're a MAGA, whether you're me, whether you're you, it doesn't matter. We should all be angry about the fact. But you know what?
Blame the corporations. They always blame the government because they don't understand government. And that's one of the biggest problems there is. Like, people don't understand the function of the government.
And, there has been talk I've heard lately about, in order, and I know it's not going to happen, but it's really coming from the Republican side. And it's this angry mentality that young people are voting. And they're saying, well, you should be able to take a civics test first before you vote, before you're a certain age. My guess is that a lot of the people who are saying that probably couldn't pass the same civics test that they're talking about. Yeah. And again, that's not just Republicans. That's a lot of Americans, because they just don't follow this. It's not, and you and I have talked about this before, I think. If you don't follow it, it's okay. We know you've got a life. We know there's a ton of things. And if you just go through life and none of it bothers you, that's fine. But if you don't follow it, but you're going to be mad about it, I think that's what irritates me. It irritates me when you're going to get mad about something that you really don't know a whole bunch about.
Right. And it's a simple Google. If you're like, oh my God, I can't believe gas prices are up. Is it Biden's fault? I mean, you can just Google to see why do gas prices rise?
Yeah. I think the problem though, Lana, is they continue to Google until they find the answer that they want, until they find the answer that is, and they'll find it on crazy patriot eagle.com and just share that story.
It won't be a credible source. I don't even know what credible. I know we have to move on.
No, we can do whatever we want. How about that?
Yay. I read somewhere that a New Jersey school district is actually teaching the kids how to find correct sources or factual sources because of the misinformation that's out there. So it's actually teaching them, because they understand that these new age children, they're just internet. They're getting their news from TikTok, from Facebook. So they're actually teaching them how to use secondary sources to back up this information. Okay, you have something, you're reading it. How do we know that that's a fact? Let's find some secondary sources to find. So it should be mandatory in all of the schools to teach these kids how to, but adults don't even know how to, it's just.
Yeah. What's sad about what you were just saying, the thought that went through my head is that eventually you're going to have somebody go to a school board and say, factcheck.org is owned by Bill Gates, and they're just trying to indoctrinate my children. And that's what there's no such thing as facts when you don't want them. If you don't want the facts, then you could just say, fuck it to facts, and say, I'm just going to make up my own facts. I don't even care if you show me the proof. I don't even care if I can't find it myself. I feel better about just believing this.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And that's sad.
Yeah. And it's, the states are going to be separate. I'm just going to be looking at you, Brian, over in Florida,
yeah. Well, I would imagine our school board meetings are probably a lot different than the school board meetings up in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
You know, but it's going on all over the country. But we're talking